Your car is outside your own house, engine off, keys in your hand. 4th time this week. You know how to set a boundary. You will know 3 other things instead. The front window of the house is lit and you have not moved. The first is a name for the exact sensation that tells you the connection is gone. You have had it, probably this week. The second is the shift that stops the drain at its source instead of slowing it. The third is a way to protect your own evening that does not feel like a betrayal. Now, the part I'm refusing to teach you because you already have it. Set a boundary. Say no more often. You cannot pour from an empty cup. You have heard all 3. You have said the 3rd one to somebody else and meant it, and you are still in the car. So why does the advice keep failing on the people who need it most? Hold that. I will leave it open for a while, and the answer has nothing to do with you failing to apply it properly. So the advice was never the missing piece. A 13th century poet in Konya described your exact condition, and he was more precise about it than your training was. He put it in the first 4 lines of a book that runs to 6 volumes. Almost every caregiver who reads those lines reads them backwards. Not the famous line, the one 3 lines later. Stay with the car for a moment. You are not in crisis. That is worth saying plainly, because the crisis version of this story is the only one anybody tells. You are functional. You are good at your work. Your notes are written, mostly. Nobody has raised a concern about you, and nobody is going to. What happened is quieter than a crisis. Your last session ran 14 minutes over. You heard something unresolved in her voice, and you could not leave it there. You sent the follow-up email at 9, and it was not required. On Saturday, you canceled the thing you had been looking forward to because someone needed you, and the need was real. Every one of those was a good decision. That is the part nobody warns you about. Something else changed instead. It is not your workload, and it is not your patience. It is the quality of your attention in the room with the people who need you most. You still show up. Your voice still does the warm thing it is supposed to do, but the warmth has become technically accurate rather than felt. And you noticed that about yourself some weeks ago, and you have told nobody. You've not told anybody because saying it out loud sounds like complaining about a life built around helping people, and you are not certain you were allowed to complain about that. The mug on your desk went cold at 9 this morning. You filled it. You never drank it. That is not a metaphor, and I will not turn it into one. Now the question this whole video runs on. What if the flattening is not the price of caring? What if it is a signal that you have been drawing from the wrong place entirely? Hold that. It sounds like a reframe you have heard before, and it is not, and the difference will not be obvious for a few minutes yet. Because here is the trap in the advice you have already been given. Emotional distance, professional detachment, tighter hours. That advice is not wrong exactly. Caregivers who follow it do stop draining so fast. They also do not refill. The distance changes the texture of the depletion from ache to numbness. Numbness is more professionally tolerable, so everyone agrees to call it health, and the person stops asking the question. Hold the 3 things I listed at the start, because they arrive in reverse order of size. The first of the 3 is the smallest. It is a 2-second event you have already lived through, and it changes your Tuesday. It gets answered in the 5th section, and it will be worth the wait. One more thing, and I am keeping it back for now. In the opening passage of the Masnavi, there is a clause about what a thing has to be before it can give anything at all. Most translations carry it. Almost nobody reads it as a condition. They read it as scenery. Read as a condition. It makes the boundary you feel guilty about into the least selfish thing you will do this year. I will come back for that clause. Before it can land, you need to see what you are actually depleted of, and it is not energy, and it is not compassion. If this is landing, subscribe before we go further. I would rather you were here for the middle. Because two things have to come first, and they start with a cut reed lying on dry ground. Watch what happens to the reed. That is where this begins. Rumi opens the Masnavi with a sound. He does not open with God, or with love, or with a doctrine of any kind. The first image in a work of 6 books is a length of cut reed, made into a flute, crying. Listen to the reed, how it tells a tale, complaining of separations. 1. People have loved it for 7.5 centuries, and a great many of them have loved it for the wrong reason. The usual reading goes like this. The reed is sad. Its song is beautiful because it hurts. Pain makes art. Suffering deepens us. And the wound is where the light comes in. You have met that reading on a poster. Rumi is doing something far more specific, and line 2 tells you what. The reed is not lamenting love. The reed is lamenting the reed bed, the wet, rooted ground it was cut from. The reed cries about a location, not about a feeling. Sit with the physical facts, because Rumi chose them deliberately. A reed grows in water. It drinks constantly. To make it into an instrument, you cut it from that water, you dry it, and you hollow it out. Only then will it carry a sound. The music is real. It is also being produced by a thing that has been separated from its supply and is running down. Now look at the last 6 months of your working life. You've been producing something beautiful. Your attention in a small room is genuinely valuable, and the people receiving it are not imagining that. You have also been producing it out of a diminishing quantity of yourself, and you have called that diminishing by the name commitment. This is the misreading that costs caregivers their careers. You were taught that proximity to suffering is the same thing as connection to something that sustains you. It is not the same thing. You can sit 6 feet from human pain for 9 hours a day and be, in the sense Rumi means, entirely cut off. And this explains the symptom nobody in your profession will say out loud. The resentment. It arrives quietly and it horrifies you. A client cancels and your first feeling is relief. Someone starts a sentence you have heard 40 times and something in you goes flat before they finish it. You catch yourself thinking, not this again, about a person in genuine distress, and then you spend the drive home prosecuting yourself for it. Pay attention to what you do with that, because this is the moment the whole thing turns. You have read it as evidence that you're becoming a worse person. Eat it the other way. Resentment is not the opposite of compassion. Resentment is what compassion does when it is being generated from a reservoir instead of received from a source. It is a fuel gauge. It is telling you a fact about supply, not a fact about your character. Which raises the obvious objection, and I want to take it seriously rather than argue past it. If the problem is supply, then rest should fix it. It does not fix it. You know it does not, because you have taken the leave. You came back, and it held for 9 days. Everybody in this profession knows the 9 days. Nobody can explain them. Rumi can explain them, and the explanation is in what the reed is cut off from, which is not rest, and not sleep, and not time off. He names it in line 32, and when he does, he uses a word that should not fit. He says the flute is played with fire. Before that can mean anything, you have to see what you are actually running out of. It is not energy. You have plenty of energy for the things you are not obliged to do. Watch what happens when you take that seriously. I will show you in the next few minutes. Try to remember the last session where you were genuinely present. Not competently present. Not performing attentiveness well, which you can do in your sleep and frequently have. I mean the one you still think about months later, where something passed between you and another person, and both of you knew it. Now recall how you felt afterwards. Quiet, probably. Slowed down, but not hollowed. You did not need to recover from it the way you need to recover from an ordinary Thursday. You drove home, and you were still available to the people in your house. That session cost you almost nothing, and it was the most demanding thing you did that month. Hold that, because it breaks the model you've been running on. If depletion were caused by how much you feel, that session should have flattened you. It did the opposite. So the variable is not volume. The variable is somewhere else, and Rumi puts his finger on it with a line that sounds, at first, like the softest thing in Sufi literature. Self-love is the ground that every other love is built on. You've seen that sentence on a candle. Set aside where it has ended up, and look at what it is claiming. That claim has nothing to do with how you feel about yourself. It describes an order of operations. Something has to be full before it can pour. That describes how pouring works, and it carries no moral preference at all. This is the part that people find hardest, so I will say it as plainly as I can. So here is who this diagnoses, and it may well be you. You say yes to almost everything. You have told yourself this is because you care. It does it. Think about the last 5 times you said yes when you wanted to say not tonight. Now ask what you were actually avoiding in the half second before you answered. It was rarely their disappointment. It was the picture of yourself as the person who refused. That is ego, the other kind, not vanity. The ego of the good one, the reliable one, the person who does not let people down. It looks nothing like selfishness, which is precisely why it survives so long inside a caring profession. It is the only form of self-regard that a helper is permitted to have, so it grows unchallenged for years, wearing the uniform of virtue. And it depletes you exactly like the thing it pretends to oppose. Rumi's cut here is surgical. The person who says no because they are rooted has something left to give. The person who says yes to everything because they cannot bear to be seen refusing is not being generous. They are managing an image at their own expense and calling the cost love. Watch the shame do its work, because the shame is the engine. You feel the first flicker of resentment. You immediately hate yourself for feeling it. You lie awake cataloging what you have given, and then feel ashamed of the cataloging. So, you conclude that you have not given enough yet, and the only currency available to settle that debt is more giving, which drains the thing you are trying to fill, which produces more resentment, which restarts the whole circuit. That loop can run for a decade. For a lot of people it does. You will have noticed I have not said what breaks it. Knowing the cup has to be full is not the thing that breaks it. You've understood that for about 90 seconds now, and I would guess it is already sliding off you. That is not an attention problem. It is what happens when you hand a structural insight to somebody running on empty. The mind takes it in, agrees, and the body carries on exactly as before, because the body runs on fuel rather than ideas, and the last fuel it has is technique. Patience as discipline, presence as willpower, empathy as professional competence. Each of those is a skill you built on purpose over years. And in line 32, Rumi says the flute is not moved by that at all. He gives it a different name. What comes next is the whole hinge of this video, and the distinction he draws is not yet on the table. This flute is played with fire, not with wind. That is the line. Masnavi Book I, around line 32. And it is the sentence this entire episode has been walking toward. Read it literally first, because it is a strange thing to say. A flute is obviously played with wind. You blow into it. Rumi knows that. He says it anyway. So he is drawing a distinction between two things that both produce the same sound, and telling you they are not the same at all. Wind is what you generate. It comes out of your own chest. There is a finite amount of it. It is under your control, and when it runs out, the note stops. Fire is not generated by the instrument. It arrives. The reed does not produce it and cannot exhaust it. The reed's only job is to be hollow enough to let it through. Now put your training against that. Everything you were taught to do is wind. Attunement is wind. Reflective listening is wind. Regulating your own nervous system so you can hold someone else's is wind. Excellent wind, and nothing here asks you to stop doing it. It is a genuine skill, and most people cannot do it at all. It is also the thing that runs out. That is why the leaf did not hold. Rest refills the reservoir. It does not change what you are running on. You come back with a full tank of wind. You spend it at the same rate as before, and 9 days later you are exactly where you were. The 9 days measure the size of the tank. Fire, in Rumi's vocabulary, is mahabbah. The word does not mean warmth or fondness or tenderness. In the tradition Rumi inherited from his father, mahabbah is closer to a force than a feeling, the thing that overflows outward and produces everything, whether or not you are participating. You do not manufacture it. You are not asked to. The single question is whether you are positioned to receive it or standing in your own way. Notice what that does to the arithmetic. This is where the whole moral frame of your job inverts. If care is wind, then every boundary you set is a subtraction. There is a fixed amount, and whatever you keep is taken from somebody who needed it. That arithmetic is exactly why the guilt feels reasonable. Inside that model, the guilt is correct. If care is fire, the arithmetic does not apply. A blocked reed does not save its music for later. It simply does not sound. Which brings the objection, and it is a good one, and I suspect you are already making it. This sounds like religion. You may not have one. You may have deliberately left one. You do not need his metaphysics for the mechanism to work. Strip the theology out, and what remains is a claim you can test this week. There is a category of experience that fills you rather than spending you. And if you do not build contact with it into your actual calendar, you will run on wind until the wind is gone. For some people, the contact is prayer. For others, it is 2 hours in a forest, or playing an instrument badly, or a piece of work nobody is paying them for, or a friendship with no clinical use whatsoever. A reliable test exists for whether something is fire or wind. I will show you the test later in this video, because it needs one more piece before it makes sense. Keep that in mind. It is the thing you will actually use on Sunday night. That piece is the clause I promised you in the first minute. It is the condition on the cup. That clause is still sitting open, and it is about to make the thing you feel most guilty about look like the most generous act available to you. It is Tuesday, 6:10. Your last session ran 4 minutes over. The notes from it are not written. 2 texts are sitting unanswered on your phone from someone who is not in danger but is not fine either. And somebody you love is in the next room, asking for the second time whether you want dinner. You know what you are going to do. You are going to write the notes. Every part of your training points there. The notes are professional obligation. The texts are a duty of care. The person in the next room is the one relationship in the building that will forgive you, which is exactly why it is the one that gets cut. That is the calculus this chapter takes apart. Underneath it sits a single assumption, that care is measured in availability. The more of yourself you dispense, the better you are at this. Nobody ever said that to you directly. It did not need saying. Here is Rumi's clause. It has been sitting in the opening passage the whole time. Everyone who is left far from his source wishes back the time when he was united with it. Line 4. Read is scenery. It is a lovely, melancholy image. Red is a condition. It says something else. The longing is not a wound. The longing is the mechanism by which a thing finds its way back. It is functional. It is doing a job. So what is the condition on the cup? The cup does not give by being emptied. It gives by being full past its own rim. That is not sentiment. It is the physical difference between overflow and depletion. Overflow costs the cup nothing. depletion costs it everything, and it can only be done once. Read that line again with your own Tuesday evening in mind. Now run it against the guilt. You feel guilty about the evening because you have been calculating in wind, a fixed amount, and whatever you keep is stolen from somebody. In that frame, guilt is a correct signal, and no amount of self-permission will talk you out of it, which is why the boundaries advice never held. Change what is in the cup, and the arithmetic changes with it. The hour you protect on Tuesday goes to your Wednesday clients. It reaches them as the person who shows up. There is no version of this where the depleted you is the more generous one. There is only a version where the depleted you is more available, and availability was never the thing they came for. Think about what a person actually receives from you when you are running on the last of it. They get a competent professional executing a technique. They can tell, not consciously, and they would never name it, but the room is different, and they leave slightly less met than they came. What they came for was contact with someone who was genuinely there. You cannot perform that. You arrive in it, or you do not. Which means the boundary works as the rim of a cup, not as a wall you build to keep them out. If that reframe landed, tell me in the comments what you protected this week. I read them, and it is the part of this that keeps me making these. It is the thing that makes the cup a cup. Now, the third position, and this matters because the profession only offers you two. Position 1. Give everything until you cannot. Position 2. Withdraw, protect yourself, feel less, call it sustainability. Almost every burnt-out caregiver you know has swung from the first to the second, and most of them describe the swing as maturity. There is a third, and Rumi is describing it. Give from what overflows, which obliges you to protect the source. That third position has a cost, the other two do not, and I have not mentioned it yet. You will have to stop reading your own exhaustion as evidence of devotion. For a lot of people, that is the hardest sentence in this video, because the exhaustion has been load-bearing. It has been the proof. And that leads directly to the part I have been holding since the first minute. The reason your burnout is not the failure you have been treating it as. Rumi has one more thing to say about the lament itself, and it comes back in a moment. It changes what the last 2 years were. You stop mid-sentence in a session and cannot remember what you were saying. Not a lost word, not distraction, a full stop, in a room where someone is paying you to be present, and for 2 or 3 seconds you are simply not there, and you can feel yourself not being there. That is the sensation. That is the first of the 3 things I promised you at the start, the smallest of them, and the one that changes your Tuesday. Nobody in your training ever named it, so you have been filing it under the 2 available headings. The first is, I am failing. The second, once you have done enough professional development, is, I am fatigued. Both of those point in the same direction. Try harder, rest better, regulate more efficiently. Both are wind. Rumi asks a different question about the same moment, and he asks it in line 3, which is the strangest line in the passage. I want a bosom torn by severance, that I may unfold the pain of love desire. He is not asking for suffering. He is asking for the only condition in which the explanation can be heard. Slow down here. This is the reframe that saves people. The gap in your session is the lament. It is the reed making the only sound it has for the fact that it is a long way from water. And the lament is not a complaint. It is a signal, and it is accurate, and it is pointed at the exact right thing. Which means the burnout is the most reliable instrument you own. Sit with the consequence of that, because it is not comfortable. If the exhaustion is a signal, then overriding it is not resilience. Overriding it is switching off the one alarm that was working. Every time you have pushed through, taken the extra client, told yourself you would rest at the end of the month, you have not been demonstrating strength. You have been silencing the instrument that was telling you where you were. And the person who crashes has one advantage over the person still running on fumes. The crash is unignorable. It cannot be talked past. The colleague who is still functional on a fraction of themselves can go on not listening for years, and usually does, and that is the more dangerous position of the two. The alarm is still sounding. They have simply stopped hearing it. So the question in front of you concerns what the signal points at, not how to switch it off, which requires you to ask something you have probably never asked in these words, separated from what exactly? You've had rest, and time, and sleep, and a lighter caseload would not touch it. Those are all real, and none of them is the reed bed. The answer is the thing you stopped doing when you got serious about this work. I want you to actually locate it, because it is specific and it is yours, and I'm going to give you a way to find it in the next few minutes. Most people, when they look, find it somewhere in their late 20s, and they find that they gave it up on purpose, and that they were praised for giving it up. That is where the practice starts, with the thing you cut, not with a boundary. Stay with this. What comes next is the only part of the video that changes anything. Mahabbah is not a feeling you are supposed to work up. In Rumi's teaching, it is closer to a default, a state that is there once the obstruction is removed, which reframes the whole project. Nobody is asking you to generate anything. You are being asked to stop blocking something. 3 obstructions sit in the way, and they are the 3 things this video has been taking apart. The first is the belief that you must give until empty. The second is the guilt that arrives when you do not. The third is the disconnection from your own source. That one is a scheduling fact rather than an idea. So, the test I promised you in the 3rd section. Take anything you might call restorative, then ask one question about it. Afterwards, are you fuller or merely less empty? That is the whole test. It sorts almost everything. An evening of television is less empty. It is a legitimate way to stop the bleeding, and it is not contemptible, and it puts nothing back. The same is true of most of what you currently call rest. It is wind management. It is topping up the tank. Fire is the other category. It is narrower than you would like. It is specific to you, and you will recognize it by a strange marker. You come back from it with more than you left with, and you cannot explain the arithmetic. Most caregivers, when they run this test honestly, discover something uncomfortable. They have not had contact with the second category in a very long time, and the reason is that it never looked productive enough to defend. So, 3 things to do. 3 things, and not a program. 1. Find what you cut. Go back to your late 20s, before this work became the whole architecture. Name the specific thing you stopped doing when you got serious. The instrument, the long walks, the friendship with no use, the writing nobody was going to read. You will know it within about 30 seconds, and your first reaction will be that it is not realistic to restart it now. Note that reaction. It is the ego of the good one, protecting the arrangement. Please, put it in the calendar before the week fills. Not what is left over. There's never anything left over, and there never will be. This is the part that people skip, and skipping it is why the insight evaporates in 90 seconds. An unscheduled intention is a wish. 90 minutes a week, defended like a clinical appointment, will outperform every self-care technique you have been given. Learn the sensation and act on it early. You already know the 2-second gap in the middle of your own sentence. Right now, you treat it as evidence of a personal deficiency to be overridden. Treat it instead as a reading. When it happens twice in a week, you are not tired. You are far from the water, and you have been for a while, and something needs to move before the crash makes the decision for you. Now, the honest part. because I would rather you heard it here than discovered it in 3 weeks. The first month of this feels worse, not better. You will protect the 90 minutes and spend most of it convinced you should be doing something else. The guilt does not disappear when you understand it. It fades slowly as evidence accumulates that the people you care for are not in fact harmed by it. And that evidence takes real time to gather, because you have to run the experiment before you can believe the result. What tells you it is working is smaller and stranger than feeling virtuous. One day you will notice you are still available at 7 in the evening, not performing availability, actually there, in your own house, with the people who have been getting the version of you that was left over. That is the whole of it, and here is where it lands. There is one thing left, which is what the read does after it has been listened to. Go back to the car. Engine off, house in front of you. 10 minutes you cannot account for. You have read that pause as the cost of the work, something you pay because you care, and will keep paying until one day the bill comes in full. It was never the bill. It was the lament. It was the most accurate thing your body said all day, and you have been apologizing for it. Rumi's reed was never a tragic object, though that misreading has followed the poem for centuries. The reed is not being punished, and its song is not made of damage. It is a hollow thing that something moves through, and its crying is the sound of a location, and the location can change. 3 knots, and they come undone together. Love is not measured by what it costs you. Refusal is not the opposite of generosity, and the way out of this is not more effort, which was the only tool you had left. You walked into this depleted. Let me be precise about what that meant, because it was not what you thought. You were producing something real out of a diminishing quantity of yourself, and calling the diminishing devotion. And the resentment that frightened you was a fuel gauge doing its job. So here is the thing to do tonight, and it is not the 90 minutes, and it is not the calendar. Sit in the car for the 10 minutes. Do not fix it. Do not shorten it. Do not feel bad about it. Just notice what it is telling you, and let it be information instead of a verdict. Then go inside. The people in there have been getting what was left over. There is enough. It was never coming from you.